In the heart of Boston, the Pierce Mansion stood as a symbol of old wealth, towering proudly among the historic streets of Beacon Hill. Emma Pierce had grown up surrounded by the finest luxuries, yet there had always been an unspoken emptiness in her life. Since the passing of her mother when she was just 12, the grand halls of her childhood home echoed with a hollow silence. Her father, Charles Pierce, had retreated into his work after his wife's death, leaving Emma in the care of her new stepmother, Victoria. Victoria had entered their lives like a polished, glamorous whirlwind, quickly making herself the center of Charles's affections. To the outside world, she was a picture of elegance and grace, a woman who embodied the charm of Boston's upper society. But behind closed doors, Emma quickly learned that Victoria was nothing like the loving mother figure she pretended to be. Underneath her perfect exterior lurked a cold, manipulative force, and Emma had always been the target of her stepmother's quiet resentment. As Emma matured into a young woman, the tension between her and Victoria deepened. Emma was set to inherit a substantial fortune from her mother's estate when she turned 21, and this fact gnawed at Victoria constantly. The idea that Emma, a mere stepdaughter, would inherit millions while she, the real wife, had no legal claim over that money infuriated her. Victoria often reminded Emma, in subtle ways, that she would never be good enough, never truly deserving of the life of wealth and privilege she had been born into. At the dinner table, Victoria often complimented Emma's father on his latest business deals, all while ignoring Emma's presence entirely. On one occasion, when Charles praised Emma for excelling at a charity event she had organized, Victoria casually remarked that Emma was lucky to have had such a good education handed to her. After all, Victoria would muse, most girls weren't born with a silver spoon in their mouths. The remark stung, but Emma had grown used to the passive-aggressive digs. What Emma didn't realize was that Victoria was already plotting her ultimate move to humiliate and destroy her. By the time Emma reached her 21st birthday, the tension had reached its peak. Victoria knew that Emma's fortune would soon be legally hers, and she could no longer afford to wait in the background. She devised a plan so cruel, so intricately humiliating, that it would strip Emma of the respect and dignity she had always known. Victoria would orchestrate an engagement for Emma, but not with the type of man her stepdaughter had imagined. No, Emma wouldn't be marrying a respectable, wealthy bachelor. Instead, she would be forced into an engagement with a beggar, someone far beneath her status, someone who would bring shame upon her name. Victoria's plan began on a crisp fall morning when she ventured into the poorer districts of Boston. She had heard whispers of a homeless man named Jack Sawyer, a man who once had potential but had fallen on hard times. Jack had been an architect, a man of intelligence and skill, but personal tragedy had derailed his life. His wife and child had died in a house fire years ago, leaving him broken and destitute. Now he roamed the streets, living off the kindness of strangers. He was perfect for Victoria's cruel scheme. Victoria approached Jack one afternoon, her well-tailored coat contrasting sharply with the ragged street around her. She had an offer for him, one he couldn't refuse. Victoria told him about her stepdaughter, a wealthy young woman who was in need of a husband. There would be no love in this arrangement, she assured him, only a transactional agreement. If Jack agreed to pretend to be Emma's fiancé, he would be handsomely compensated. He would have enough money to start over, to rebuild his life from the ashes. Jack, weary and desperate for a way out of his misery, agreed to the deal. With Jack on board, Victoria wasted no time. She arranged for a grand family dinner to announce the engagement, ensuring that the room would be filled with the city's elite. The event was set in the elegant dining hall of the Pierce Mansion, with its high ceilings and glittering chandeliers casting a soft, golden light over the assembled guests. Emma was unaware of the announcement that was about to be made. She had been dreading the evening, knowing that any public gathering meant enduring Victoria's thinly veiled barbs and underhanded comments. But nothing could have prepared her for what was to come. As the guests settled into their seats, Victoria stood at the head of the table, raising her glass in a toast. She smiled warmly at the crowd, her eyes gleaming with satisfaction. She announced, with a falsely sweet voice, that she had wonderful news to share. Emma was engaged. The room fell silent. All eyes turned to Emma, whose face paled with confusion and shock. Engaged to whom? She had no suitors, no serious relationships. Victoria continued, her tone dripping with mock sincerity as she introduced Jack Sawyer to the room. The gasps of shock were audible as Jack, dressed in a hastily borrowed suit, stepped forward. His appearance was rough, his face unshaven, and his eyes hollow from years of hardship. Emma's heart sank as she realized what was happening. This was not a dream come true. This was a nightmare. Emma's humiliation was complete. The guests murmured among themselves, their judgmental glances cutting through her like knives. Victoria's plan had worked perfectly. Emma, the young woman destined to inherit her mother's wealth and prestige, was now engaged to a man who had once begged for food on the streets. The shame was unbearable. Jack, for his part, stood awkwardly by Emma's side, aware that he was a pawn in Victoria's twisted game. He had agreed to the engagement for the money, but as he looked at Emma's devastated expression, a pang of guilt gnawed at him. He hadn't known the full extent of Victoria's cruelty. He hadn't realized that this wasn't just a business transaction. It was a calculated move to destroy a young woman's life. Emma excused herself from the table, her voice barely above a whisper as she asked to be alone. She fled to the garden, the cool evening air hitting her tear-streaked face as she tried to comprehend what had just happened. Her life had been torn apart in an instant. She had always known Victoria despised her, but she had never imagined her stepmother would go this far. In the days that followed, the engagement became the talk of Boston's high society. Emma's reputation was in ruins, and Jack, though initially invisible to most of the world, became a point of fascination. People speculated endlessly about the peculiar match, wondering what could have led to such an ill-fated engagement. Emma's friends pitied her, while others whispered that perhaps she deserved it, that perhaps she had fallen from grace in ways they couldn't yet see. Jack, too, was thrust into the spotlight in ways he hadn't anticipated. The money Victoria had promised was now tied to a future he wasn't sure he could endure. He had agreed to this engagement to escape the streets, but he hadn't counted on the moral cost. Emma wasn't the cold, spoiled rich girl he had imagined her to be. She was kind, intelligent, and undeserving of the humiliation she was now facing. As Emma and Jack spent more time together, navigating the mess that had been thrust upon them, they began to form an unlikely bond. Though their engagement was a sham, they discovered shared vulnerabilities. Emma had lost her mother, and in many ways had lost her father to his grief and Victoria's influence. Jack had lost his family and his purpose, but in Emma he found a kindred spirit, someone who had also been wounded by life's cruel twists. Yet, even as they grew closer, the weight of the engagement hung over them like a dark cloud. Emma couldn't shake the feeling of being trapped, and Jack was torn between his desire to help Emma and his need for the financial security Victoria had promised. They both knew that their future together was uncertain, but one thing was clear. Neither of them wanted to be a pawn in Victoria's game any longer. As days turned into weeks, Emma found herself trapped in an engagement she had never wanted. The whispers around Boston society continued, and with each passing day, it became harder to face the world. Invitations to charity events or social gatherings, once frequent, began to dwindle. Her so-called friends, who had once praised her for her beauty and kindness, now looked at her with pity, if they acknowledged her at all. Emma felt the walls closing in, and Victoria, ever smug in her triumph, made sure to remind her at every opportunity. "Perhaps, Emma," Victoria said one evening as they sat across from each other in the grand dining room, "this engagement is a blessing in disguise. It's time you learn to appreciate the simpler things in life. Not everyone is as fortunate as you've been." Emma remained silent, pushing her food around on her plate, her appetite long gone. She had come to understand that silence was the only defense against Victoria's cutting remarks. Yet, in the quiet of her mind, a resolve was beginning to form. She would not be broken. Victoria may have orchestrated this humiliation, but Emma was determined to find a way through it with her dignity intact. Meanwhile, Jack found himself at odds with the new life thrust upon him. Though he was now living under the Pierce roof, an arrangement that Victoria insisted upon to maintain the appearance of a proper engagement. He felt like a ghost in a world that wasn't his. The luxury, the opulence, it all seemed surreal after years of living on the streets. He had been given new clothes, food, and shelter. Yet there was a gnawing discomfort in knowing that none of it truly belonged to him. Jack avoided interacting with the household staff as much as possible, feeling their judgmental glances when they thought he wasn't looking. He had been given a room on the far side of the mansion, and though it was grand by any standard, it felt like a cage. He spent most of his days wandering through the mansion's library, finding solace in the countless books that filled the shelves. It was here, among the forgotten tomes, that Emma found him one evening. She had come to the library to escape the oppressive atmosphere of the house, her thoughts a whirlwind of confusion and frustration. When she saw Jack sitting in the corner, reading a worn book on architecture, she hesitated at first. But then, for reasons she couldn't quite explain, she approached him. "Do you really want to go through with this?" Emma's voice was quiet, barely above a whisper, but it carried the weight of everything she had been feeling. Jack looked up, surprised by her presence. He set the book down, studying her face. She looked tired, more tired than he had ever seen her. He understood her question immediately. "No," Jack admitted, his voice rough but sincere. "I don't, but I don't have much of a choice, do I?" Emma sat down in the chair opposite him, the silence between them heavy. She hadn't expected him to be so honest, but then again, what did they have to lose by being truthful with each other? The engagement was a farce, and both of them knew it. But as Emma sat there, she realized that they were in this together, even if neither of them had wanted it. "Neither do I," she said after a long pause, "but I won't let her win." Jack raised an eyebrow, intrigued by the fire in Emma's voice. "What do you mean?" Emma straightened in her chair, her resolve solidifying as she spoke. "I don't know how yet, but I refuse to let Victoria control my life. She may think she's won, but I'll find a way out of this, one that doesn't ruin either of us." For the first time since the engagement had been announced, Jack saw something in Emma that he hadn't noticed before. She wasn't the fragile, sheltered girl he had assumed her to be. There was strength in her, strength that had been buried under layers of privilege and expectation, but was now beginning to surface. "Then maybe we can help each other," Jack said slowly. "I don't want to be here any more than you do, but if we're going to get out of this, we'll have to work together." Emma nodded, appreciating his offer more than she had anticipated. They were both pawns in Victoria's game, but perhaps, if they played their cards right, they could turn the tables. In the days that followed, Emma and Jack began to speak more often. Their conversations, once stilted and awkward, became more fluid as they discussed their options. Jack, with his background in architecture, had ideas for how he could rebuild his life once he was free from the engagement. He spoke of a time before his fall from grace, when he had been on the verge of success before tragedy struck. Emma listened intently, her respect for him growing with each story. Despite his hardships, Jack hadn't lost his ambition or his intelligence. He had simply lost his way. Emma, for the first time, began to see Jack not as a beggar, but as a man who had been shaped by circumstances beyond his control. And in turn, Jack began to see Emma as more than just a wealthy socialite. She had been shaped by her own tragedies, and though her hardships were different from his, they were no less significant. One evening, as they sat in the library discussing their next steps, Emma proposed an idea. What if we made it look like we were going along with Victoria's plan, but behind the scenes, we worked to build a different future for ourselves? Jack considered her words, his brow furrowing in thought. "What do you have in mind?" Emma explained her plan in detail. They would go through the motions of the engagement, attending public events, playing the part of the dutiful couple, while secretly working on ways to extricate themselves from the arrangement. Jack would begin to rebuild his career, using the contacts Emma still had within Boston's elite. Emma, in the meantime, would quietly gather the legal information she needed to secure her inheritance without Victoria's interference. It wasn't a perfect plan, but it was a start, and most importantly, it gave them both a sense of control over their lives once again. "We'll need to be careful," Jack warned. Victoria is sharp. If she suspects anything, she'll find a way to sabotage us. Emma nodded. I know, but she underestimates me. She thinks I'm weak, but she'll soon find out that I'm not. With their plan in place, Emma and Jack began to put it into action. They attended society functions together, always presenting the image of a happy couple. Victoria, pleased with how smoothly things were going, had no idea that beneath the surface, her carefully constructed scheme was beginning to unravel. Jack, now with Emma's support, began reaching out to old contacts in the architectural world. Though it was difficult to erase the stigma of his fall from grace, he found that there were still people willing to give him a chance. Slowly, he began to rebuild his reputation. He secured small projects at first, nothing grand, but enough to give him hope that he could one day stand on his own again. Emma, meanwhile, worked quietly with a lawyer to ensure that her inheritance would be protected from Victoria's grasp. She spent hours poring over legal documents, determined to outmaneuver her stepmother. The more she learned, the more confident she became that she could reclaim control over her life. Weeks turned into months, and the engagement, though fraught with tension, began to transform into something more complex than either Emma or Jack had anticipated. As they spent time together, a tentative friendship blossomed. They shared laughter over stolen moments in the library, where they exchanged stories about their lives before the engagement. Emma learned about Jack's passion for architecture, while he discovered the weight of expectation that had been placed upon her since childhood. One evening, as they pored over blueprints for a small community project Jack was helping with, Emma looked up, her eyes alight with curiosity. What inspired you to become an architect? Jack leaned back in his chair, contemplating the question. I've always loved building things. I wanted to create spaces that would bring people together, places where memories could be made. My father was a carpenter, and I spent my childhood in his workshop, watching him craft furniture. That's where it all started. Emma smiled, picturing a young Jack surrounded by wood shavings and the smell of fresh-cut timber. What happened? Why did you stop? A shadow crossed Jack's face, and he paused. Life happened. My wife and daughter, they were everything to me. After the accident, I lost my will to create. I couldn't bear the thought of designing buildings when I couldn't even protect my own family. Emma felt a pang of empathy, understanding the depth of his pain. I'm so sorry, Jack. He shook his head, a soft smile replacing the sadness. It's part of my story, but it doesn't define me. I want to get back to that place where I felt inspired again, and I want to do it for them. His determination sparked something in Emma, a desire to help him find that spark again. Let's create something together, she suggested, her voice filled with enthusiasm. We can start with something small, a project that gives back to the community. If you're rebuilding your career, we can use your skills to help others. Jack's eyes lit up. Are you serious? That could be a great way to show people that I'm more than just the beggar who's engaged to you. Exactly. And it'll also remind you of what you're capable of, Emma said, her excitement contagious. That evening marked the beginning of their secret project. They decided to create a small community garden in a neglected park on the outskirts of Boston, a space where families could come together and enjoy nature. They envisioned vibrant flowers, a small play area for children, and benches where people could gather and share stories. As they sketched their ideas, Emma felt a surge of hope. The project became a lifeline for both of them, a way to channel their frustrations into something positive. They began reaching out to local businesses for donations, enlisting the help of friends who were still willing to support Emma, and slowly, their vision started to take shape. Word of the community garden project spread through the neighborhood, and with it came a wave of support. Jack's past began to fade into the background as he engaged with the community, using his skills to lead volunteer days, teach others about gardening, and share his vision for the space. Emma, too, found a renewed sense of purpose in her work with Jack. She watched as people rallied around their cause, inspired by the idea of revitalizing a forgotten park. One Saturday morning, as the sun shone brightly, Emma and Jack organized a planting day. Volunteers arrived with shovels, gloves, and seeds in hand, excited to contribute to the community garden. Among the crowd, Emma spotted an old woman named Mrs. Thompson, who had lived in the neighborhood for decades. Mrs. Thompson had always been a friendly face in the community, and her presence brought warmth to the event. "Emma, Jack!" Mrs. Thompson called out as she approached. "I just had to come and see what all the fuss was about. This garden is going to be such a lovely addition to our neighborhood." "Thank you for coming, Mrs. Thompson," Emma replied, her heart swelling with gratitude. "We're so happy to have your support." As the day went on, Jack worked alongside the volunteers, digging up patches of earth and explaining how to plant different types of flowers and vegetables. Emma moved through the crowd, assisting where she could, all the while watching Jack interact with the people. She could see the joy in his eyes, the way he lit up when someone expressed interest in his ideas. This was the man she had come to respect, someone who had endured unimaginable loss, but was now reclaiming his life. At lunchtime, they gathered around a makeshift picnic area, sharing sandwiches and laughter. Jack took a moment to stand on a makeshift platform, a stack of crates, addressing the crowd. "Thank you all for being here today. This garden isn't just about flowers and vegetables. It's about community. It's about bringing us together and reminding us that we can create beauty even in the toughest of times." The applause that followed filled Emma with a sense of pride. Jack had found his voice again, and it resonated with everyone present. She felt a bond growing between them, one that transcended their unusual circumstances. After the event, as the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Emma turned to Jack. "Today was amazing. You were incredible out there." Jack chuckled, brushing off her compliment. "I just spoke from the heart, but I couldn't have done it without you. You're the one who made this happen." Emma felt her cheeks flush. "I didn't do it alone. We did this together." As they stood side by side, watching the sunset over the newly turned soil of the garden, a sense of understanding passed between them. They were both healing, in their own ways, Jack through his work and Emma through their shared experience. Despite their efforts to build something beautiful, Victoria's presence loomed like a dark cloud over their progress. She had begun to notice the subtle changes in Emma's demeanor, the spark of determination that shone in her eyes. Emma had grown more confident, and while Victoria was pleased to see her daughter-in-law engaged, she was also deeply suspicious of the relationship between Emma and Jack. One evening, Victoria summoned Emma to her private sitting room. Emma entered cautiously, knowing that Victoria's charm often masked ulterior motives. "Emma, dear," Victoria began, her tone sugary sweet, "I've been hearing some interesting things about your little garden project. It seems you've been quite busy these past few weeks." Emma's heart raced, but she kept her composure. "Yes, I have. The community has really come together to support it." Victoria leaned back in her chair, her expression unreadable. "You know, dear, people can be quite fickle. One day they adore you, and the next they could turn on you. I hope you're not getting too comfortable with the attention." Emma felt a chill run down her spine. "I'm just trying to do something good, Victoria. The garden is meant to help our community." "Ah, but at what cost?" Victoria replied, her voice sharp. "You must remember your place, Emma. You are engaged to a beggar. The sooner you accept that, the better." Emma clenched her fists, resisting the urge to lash out. "Jack is more than that, Victoria. He's a talented man who's just trying to rebuild his life." Victoria's laughter was cold and devoid of warmth. "And you're letting your precious reputation slip away with every passing day. This garden project might be noble in theory, but it's hardly the image I want to portray as your stepmother. You're not some commoner, Emma." Emma squared her shoulders, refusing to back down. "I don't care about appearances, Victoria. What matters is making a difference, and I won't stop because you're uncomfortable with it." Victoria's smile faded, replaced by a look of icy determination. "Very well, but remember, actions have consequences. I won't let you embarrass our family." With that, Emma left the room, her heart racing. Victoria's threats hung heavy in the air, a reminder that they were still caught in her web of control. But Emma refused to be intimidated. She had come too far, and she would not let Victoria dictate her life any longer. In the days that followed, Emma and Jack continued to work on the community garden. The project was gaining momentum, and local businesses began donating supplies and funds. drawn in by the passion and dedication Emma and Jack displayed. But behind the scenes, the tension between Emma and Victoria continued to grow, leading to increasingly awkward family dinners. One evening, as the family gathered around the table, Victoria made a point to publicly berate Emma for her dedication to the garden. "It's admirable that you want to play gardener, dear, but have you thought about how this will affect your future? A wealthy man won't want to marry a woman who spends her days digging in the dirt." Emma felt the heat rise to her cheeks, but she stood her ground. "I don't need a wealthy man, Victoria. I need to find my own way, and that includes helping my community." Jack sat quietly beside Emma, sensing the growing tension. He had seen the way Victoria's disdain affected Emma, and it angered him to witness the woman he had come to care for being belittled by her stepmother. "Emma has shown remarkable initiative and leadership," Jack interjected, his voice steady and firm. "The garden project is not just a hobby. It's a community effort that's bringing people together." Victoria narrowed her eyes at Jack, her disdain evident. "And what do you know about leadership? You've spent enough time on the streets to know that people will forget you just as quickly as they noticed you." Emma bristled at her stepmother's words. "Jack is more than his past, Victoria. He's using his experiences to help others, and that takes real strength, something you wouldn't understand." Victoria's laugh was sharp, cutting through the tension at the table. "Strength? Is that what you call this? A desperate attempt to prove your worth through a charity project? You should be focusing on finding a respectable match instead of wasting your time with a beggar." Jack's fists clenched at his sides, but he forced himself to remain calm. "I may not have the money or status, but I have value as a person, and so does Emma. You can't measure a person's worth by their wealth or their past." "That's enough," Victoria snapped, her patience wearing thin. "I won't have you disrespecting my family at my own dinner table." Emma felt a surge of anger. "Respect is earned, not demanded, Victoria. You should be proud of the work we're doing instead of trying to undermine it." The conversation devolved into a shouting match, with Victoria hurling insults and Jack defending Emma fiercely. As the tension escalated, Emma realized that the confrontation was necessary. She had to stand up for herself and for Jack. Finally, Emma rose from the table, her voice unwavering. "I refuse to let you belittle us any longer. This project means everything to me, and I won't let you take that away." Jack looked at her with admiration, pride swelling in his chest. Emma was no longer the passive girl he had first met. She was becoming a fierce advocate for herself and for their shared dream. As Emma left the room, she could hear Victoria muttering under her breath, but she refused to let her stepmother's words dampen her spirit. She had found her voice, and with it, a determination to forge her own path. In the weeks that followed, the community garden took shape, with flowers blooming and vegetables sprouting. The air was filled with laughter and chatter as neighbors gathered to help, turning the once-neglected park into a vibrant community hub. Jack and Emma worked side by side, their partnership growing stronger as they shared ideas and celebrated small victories. One sunny Saturday, as they planted a row of tomatoes, Jack turned to Emma, his eyes bright with excitement. "Look at this place. It's really happening, Emma. I never thought I'd be part of something this big again." Emma smiled, wiping the sweat from her brow. "Neither did I. It feels like we're creating something that will last." They worked in comfortable silence for a while, enjoying each other's presence. Then Jack broke the quiet, his tone serious. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course," Emma replied, intrigued. "Why do you care so much about this garden? I mean, it's not just about the community, is it? There's something more personal driving you, isn't there?" Emma hesitated, taking a deep breath. "It's about finding my own identity. For so long, I've felt like I've lived in the shadows of others. My mother, my stepmother, everyone telling me who I should be. This project is my way of taking control." Jack nodded, understanding. "I get that. After losing my family, I felt like I lost myself. Helping others has been my way of healing, too. Maybe that's why we work so well together. We both know what it feels like to be lost." Their eyes met, and in that moment, Emma felt an undeniable connection between them. It was a bond forged through shared experiences and mutual respect. They were two broken souls, coming together to create something beautiful. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the garden, Jack spoke softly. I'm proud of you, Emma. You're more than just the girl who was forced to marry a beggar. You're strong, compassionate, and capable of so much. Emma felt warmth spread through her chest. Thank you, Jack. I couldn't have done this without you. As the days turned into weeks, their friendship deepened into something more profound. They shared stolen moments, quiet conversations under the stars, and laughter that echoed through the garden. But even as they grew closer, the shadow of Victoria loomed large, threatening to disrupt the peace they had built. One evening, as Emma and Jack were tidying up the garden after a successful community event, Victoria appeared at the entrance, her expression cold and calculating. The atmosphere shifted instantly, the air thick with tension. What are you doing here, Victoria? Emma asked, her voice steady despite the knot in her stomach. Victoria glanced around the garden, her lips curling into a disdainful smile. I just wanted to see how my little charity project is going. I must say, it's quite quaint. Jack stepped forward, his posture protective. This garden is more than just a project, Victoria. It's a labor of love for the community. Ah, yes, love, Victoria scoffed. You're wasting your time, both of you. This is nothing but a distraction from what really matters. Emma, you need to focus on your future, a future with someone who can provide for you. Emma's resolve hardened. My future is mine to decide, not yours. I won't let you dictate my life any longer. Victoria's smile faded, replaced by a cold, piercing stare. You think you can defy me? You'll regret this. Jack stepped closer to Emma, anger radiating from him. You can't control her, Victoria. Emma has the right to choose her path. How noble of you, Jack, but what do you know about family? You're nothing but a beggar, pretending to be something you're not. Victoria spat, her words laced with venom. Emma felt the anger boil inside her. Stop calling him that. Jack is a good person, and he's done more for this community than you ever will. Victoria laughed, a sound devoid of warmth. Good? Let me remind you, Emma, good doesn't pay the bills or secure a future. You're playing house with a man who has nothing to offer you. Emma took a step forward, her voice unwavering. And you're living in a fantasy where money equates to happiness. You don't understand the value of community, of connection, and of love. Victoria's expression darkened and she turned to leave, but not before throwing one last parting shot. You'll see, Emma. I won't let you embarrass our family. You will marry someone who can give you what you need, even if it means forcing you to. As Victoria stalked away, Emma felt a wave of relief mixed with lingering fear. The confrontation had been inevitable, and while they had stood their ground, Emma knew that Victoria would not give up easily. As the community garden continued to flourish, so did Emma and Jack's relationship. They spent their evenings planning for the future, dreaming about what the garden could become, a safe haven for families, a place where children could learn and grow. But as their bond deepened, Emma couldn't shake the fear that lingered from her confrontation with Victoria. One night, as they were packing up after a long day of work, Emma finally voiced her concerns. Jack, I'm worried about what Victoria will do next. She's relentless, and I don't want her to hurt you. Jack paused, looking at her with understanding. I appreciate your concern, Emma, but I can handle myself. You need to focus on what we're building here. I know, but she's threatened by us. She sees this garden as a challenge to her control over me, Emma replied, her voice tinged with frustration. Then let's show her how strong we are together, Jack suggested, determination lighting his eyes. We can't let her dictate our lives. The more we stand up for ourselves, the less power she has over us. Emma smiled, feeling reassured by his strength. You're right. Together, we can face anything. As they stood together under the stars, a sense of solidarity enveloped them. In that moment, Emma knew they were creating something more than just a garden. They were cultivating a partnership built on mutual respect and shared dreams. Just as Emma and Jack began to find their footing, a new thread emerged. Rumors started circulating about Emma's engagement to Jack. Victoria, true to her nature, spread whispers that cast doubt on Emma's character and intentions. One afternoon, as Emma was arranging flowers for the community garden's upcoming festival, she overheard two women gossiping nearby. I can't believe she's engaged to that beggar. It's so unbecoming, one woman sneered. What kind of future does she think she can have with him? Emma felt her heart sink as the words cut through her. She turned to confront them, but hesitated, unsure if it would only make things worse. Instead, she took a deep breath and focused on the task at hand, determined not to let their negativity affect her. Jack noticed Emma's distress and approached her, concern etched on his face. "What's wrong?" "Rumors. Victoria is spreading lies about us," Emma admitted, frustration bubbling to the surface. "It's exhausting, and I don't know how to fight it." Jack placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "We'll address it together. We can hold an event at the garden, invite everyone, and show them what we're doing. Actions speak louder than words." Emma nodded, feeling a spark of hope. "You're right. We need to take control of the narrative." They quickly set to work organizing a community festival to showcase the garden. They reached out to local businesses for support, enlisted volunteers to help with decorations, and planned activities that would draw people in. The event would be a celebration of community and resilience, proving that love and compassion could thrive even in the face of adversity. The day of the festival arrived, and the garden was alive with color and laughter. Families gathered to enjoy games, live music, and delicious food donated by local businesses. Emma and Jack worked tirelessly to ensure everything went smoothly, and their excitement was palpable. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a warm glow over the garden, Emma took a moment to step back and admire their hard work. The once neglected park had transformed into a vibrant hub of joy and connection. Jack approached her, holding a bouquet of fresh flowers he had picked from the garden. "You did this, Emma. You brought everyone together." Emma smiled, taking the flowers and inhaling their sweet scent. "We did this together, Jack. I couldn't have done it without you." As the evening continued, Emma noticed people mingling and enjoying the festival. But she also saw a familiar figure lurking at the edge of the garden, Victoria, her expression a mix of disdain and disbelief. Feeling a surge of determination, Emma decided to confront her stepmother. She approached Victoria, who stood with arms crossed, watching the festivities unfold. "Victoria, what are you doing here?" Emma asked, her voice steady. Victoria's lips curled into a sneer. "I came to see what all the fuss was about. I never thought a garden could make you forget your place." Emma took a deep breath, summoning her courage. "This garden is a reflection of who I am. It's a space for community and love, not just a charity project. I won't let you belittle it." "You think you can defy me?" Victoria replied, her voice dripping with condescension. "You'll always be my daughter, and you'll always be expected to behave accordingly." "But I am not your puppet, Victoria. I have the right to choose my own path," Emma declared, her heart pounding in her chest. As the festival continued around them, Emma felt a sense of liberation wash over her. She was no longer bound by Victoria's expectations or her past. This garden represented a new beginning, one where she could define her own identity. As the festival reached its peak, Emma felt a sense of pride swell within her. The laughter of children echoed through the garden, and the smell of freshly baked goods filled the air. Families gathered to enjoy the festivities, and the sense of community was palpable. Emma turned her attention back to Victoria, who stood rigid, arms crossed. "You can't control me anymore, Victoria. This garden represents everything I want to be: kind, compassionate, and free." Victoria's expression hardened, and she stepped closer, lowering her voice to a menacing whisper. "You think this little festival will erase the truth? You're engaged to a beggar, and everyone knows it. You're just a charity case, Emma." Emma's heart raced, but she refused to back down. "No, Victoria, I'm a woman who's choosing to live authentically. I'm proud of who I am, and I'm proud of Jack." At that moment, Jack joined Emma's side, his presence a reassuring anchor. "Emma is more than her past. We're building something meaningful here, and you won't tarnish that with your words." Victoria's eyes flickered with rage, but she could see that Emma and Jack stood united. The strength of their bond was undeniable, and for the first time, Victoria felt the ground shift beneath her feet. "You'll regret this, Emma," she spat, turning on her heel and striding away, leaving a wave of tension in her wake. Emma exhaled, feeling a mix of relief and triumph. She had stood up to her stepmother, refusing to let Victoria's toxic influence control her life any longer. The garden had become a symbol of her strength, a testament to her journey of self-discovery. As the festival continued, Emma felt an overwhelming sense of belonging. The laughter and joy around her fueled her determination to keep pushing forward, no matter the obstacles that lay ahead. With Victoria's departure, the atmosphere in the garden shifted, becoming even more joyous. Emma and Jack immersed themselves in the festival, surrounded by friends and community members who had come to support their vision. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue over the garden, Jack took Emma's hand and led her to a quiet corner, away from the bustling crowd. "You were incredible back there," he said, his eyes shining with admiration. "I'm so proud of you." Emma smiled, feeling a rush of warmth at his words. "I couldn't have done it without you. You've been my rock through all of this." Jack hesitated for a moment, a serious expression crossing his face. "Emma, there's something I need to tell you." She looked up at him, her heart racing. "What is it?" "I've been thinking a lot about us. This project has shown me that I'm capable of so much more than I thought, and it's because of you. You inspire me every day." Emma's breath caught in her throat. "Jack, I feel the same way. You've helped me find my voice, my strength." He stepped closer, his gaze intense. "I care about you, Emma, more than I ever thought possible. I want to build a future with you, not just a garden." Her heart swelled at his words, and she nodded, feeling the weight of their shared experiences. "I want that too, Jack, but I don't want to rush into anything. We need to take it one step at a time." Jack smiled, a look of relief washing over him. "Agreed. Let's enjoy this moment, and we can figure it out together." They stood there, hand in hand, feeling the warmth of the evening enveloping them. The garden, a symbol of their journey, seemed to bloom even brighter as they faced the future together. As the festival wound down, Emma and Jack reflected on everything they had accomplished. The community garden had become a beacon of hope, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. People who had once felt isolated now found a place to connect, share, and grow. With the support of the community, they planned to expand the garden, introducing educational programs for children and workshops for families. Emma felt a sense of purpose she had never experienced before. She was finally making a difference. But as they stood together, looking over the garden, the shadow of Victoria still loomed in Emma's mind. She knew that their battle was far from over, but for the first time, she felt ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Jack squeezed her hand, drawing her back to the present. "Whatever happens, we'll face it together." Emma nodded, feeling a surge of determination. "Yes, together. We're building a life here, and I won't let anyone tear it down." As they stood side by side, watching the sun dip below the horizon, Emma felt a sense of peace settle over her. She was no longer the girl who lived in the shadows of others. She was a woman forging her own path, hand in hand with the man who had inspired her to embrace her true self.